4 seconds.
Okay, good evening. I'll call tonight's meeting to order for May 1st, 2024. Mr. Metz, will you call the roll, please?
Present.
Gary Gross.
Here.
Jim Hall.
Here.
Todd Moore.
Here.
Christopher Ambergy.
Present.
Jerry Heidenreich.
Here.
David Cash.
Here.
Stephen Wanamaker.
Here.
All right, thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on our agenda is our meeting minutes from February the 7th and April 3rd. Any changes, modifications? Are we ready to take a motion on minutes? Okay. Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll move to accept both sets of minutes. I'll second.
Mr. Wanamaker.
Yes.
Mr. Cash.
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich.
Yes.
Mr. Ambergy.
Abstain.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Abstain on the 7th and yes on the 3rd. I wasn't here on the 7th.
Okay, that brings us to our first case this evening, case number 524, a request by applicant Zach Ball on behalf of TZ Containers for approval of a use variance for the property located at 2651 South Brill Boulevard. Before we get started, Mr. Cash will need to swear in Mr. Metz.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Thank you, everyone. So tonight before us, we have a use variance request for property 2651 South Brill Boulevard. This is a request by applicant Zach Ball on behalf of TZ Containers for a use variance. The property is zoned B3 General Business District. The variance requested is to allow for the property to be utilized for light industrial activity, whereas the Middletown Development Code prohibits industrial uses within the B3 district. As previously mentioned, the property is zoned B3. The purpose of the B3 General Business District is to provide for intense commercial and office development in close proximity to the interstate and high-volume streets that can provide needed goods and services to residents of the city, region, and beyond. Such district is most appropriately located adjacent to freeway interchanges and along major streets. As you can see here, this is where 2651 South Brill Boulevard is. And for reference, this is where the gym dedicated motivated is. Per Chapter 120408, permitted principal uses, industrial uses are not permitted within the B3 zoning district. I also included a subsection of that. The Development Code Administrator may determine that a proposed use is substantially similar to a use that is permitted with standards conditionally permitted or prohibited in Table 1204-3 based on the proposed use, activities, character of the business, similarity to existing uses within the city. Just to give you guys a little bit of property background information on this, as on September 29th, 2023, the city of Middletown was informed by Butler County EMA and Ohio EPA emergency response of an illicit discharge in the North Branch of Dix Creek. On October 3rd, 2023, the city of Middletown met on site with Ohio EPA Division of Surface Water and Ohio EPA Hazardous Waste Program. Both departments of Ohio EPA issued notice of violations and sent letters to the tenant and property owner. On October 4th, 2023, the City of Middletown Public Works Department met with the Sewer Department to complete a dye test on the indoor and outdoor potential discharge locations. It was determined that the toilets in the area flow to the sump pump in the middle of the room and was being utilized to clean out totes. It was verified that dedicated, motivated, and Hilt golf cart sanitary lines tied in separately. On October 10th, 2023, TZ Containers applied for a certificate of zoning compliance and certificate of occupancy, briefly meaning that they were operating a business without zoning or building approval. On October 24th, 2023, the City of Middletown requested Ohio EPA Hazardous Waste to forward reinspection dates and notice of violation documentation. On October 27th, 2023, the City of Middletown received a copy of the notice of violation from Ohio EPA Surface Water. The letter requested industrial permit coverage and the development and submission of a stormwater pollution prevention plan, also known as a SWIP, and for the tenant to submit a notice of intent to obtain industrial stormwater permit coverage. On February 15th, 2024, the City of Middletown denied the certificate of zoning compliance for TZ Containers at 2651 South Brio Boulevard. On April 3rd, 2024, Zach Ball, on behalf of TZ Containers, applied for a use variance for an industrial use that is not permitted within the B3 district and a conditional use application for outdoor storage, which will be reviewed at Planning Commission's meeting next week. So I wanted to include some additional documentation. This was a notice of violation that was issued on September 29th by the EPA, notifying the property owner that they are aware of an illicit discharge that went into the north branch of Dix Creek. It was determined that the illicit discharge of petroleum-like materials and other pollutants had originated from the used IBC totes that were stored outside of TZ Containers facility located at 2651 South Brio Boulevard. The pollutants had impacted the stormwater system in north branch of Dix Creek. The unauthorized discharge of the pollutants into the north branch of Dix Creek violated Ohio Revised Code 6111. We're going to be kind of bouncing around with the dates, but I wanted to include the additional documentation. So on October 4th, the chief building official of the building department sent a stop work order and a letter to the property owner and the business owner to get the necessary permits. On October 26, 2023, there was another notice of violation sent to Zach Ball regarding additional pollutants from the hazardous waste program. I included their application, certificate of zoning compliance. So we received documents on December 14th that details the specific use of chemicals and that the tenant had violated Ohio Revised Code on 6111. Butler County EMA and Ohio EPA sent us additional information. They visited the site in 2023, and we waited from October 10th when they submitted the application until February, waiting to have Ohio EPA identify the pollutants or the chemicals that were located in the totes. We were told that everything was food grade. And then as of February 15th, 2024, Ohio EPA had not cleared the tenant. So at that point in time, we denied the zoning application. Here's the denied zoning application, which was mailed to the tenant. And then as of April 26, 2024, we still, Ohio EPA Surface Water sent another notice of violation. This is for surface water contamination and not having a SWIP completed. There's 3 pages to that, so I included all of that. And then here's a base map that was identified by Ohio EPA and our Public Works Department. Here's the site of 2651 where TZ Containers is located. Here's the storm drain, the private parking lot catch basin, which runs down this purple line, down here, which then ties in for municipal stormwater infrastructure. Dix Creek is over here. So on Friday, September, I think that's 29th, 2023, these are photos all submitted to us by Ohio EPA. This was the point of contamination. Here's another photo that was submitted from Ohio EPA, October 3rd, 2023. Probably a little bit better to see on your screens, the rainbow color sitting on top of the water. Also, in the bottom image here, you can actually see, based off their camera, where this was. So this is the location of the EPA rep. This is 2651. So this is the distance the pollutants have traveled to get into North Branch Dix Creek. From now on out, these are all photos from April 30th, 2024, which is just yesterday. I went out to the site and took some photos just to have you guys be able to see what it currently looks like. Some point in time between September of last year and currently the Hilt Golf Cart left, and TZ Containers, while having a notice of violation, expanded their operations into the additional tenant space and continued operating. Here you can see, while you're in the parking lot, you can see all the totes. This is what their back parking lot looks like. This container is still on hold for review from Ohio EPA. This is the, as you can see, there's sandbags surrounding where the drainage would, their private catch basin that would drain to the stormwater. They've blocked that off so as not to drain into our sanitary line, and once again, notify Ohio EMA. These are more totes on site. Additional totes. And more additional totes, all with the placard showing flammable. And then the last photo I have for you is just a reminder of how close this is to residential districts. I mean, the parking lot backs right up to somebody's house. So per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests, meeting notice letters for the proposed variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way, and all comments were forwarded to the Board of Zoning Appeals. You've received multiple letters from our Public Works Department, from our Fire Department, from myself, our Water Department, showing you that was sent a letter today showing you the water usage actually jumped up from 90 cubic feet to over 9,000 cubic feet, or water increased up to 37,000 gallons monthly back in February of 2023. So, per the Middletown Development Code, the purpose of a variance is to provide limited relief from the requirements of the code in those cases where strict application of a particular requirement will create a practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship prohibiting the use of land in a manner otherwise allowed under this code. It is not intended that a variance be granted merely to remove inconveniences or financial burdens that the requirements of this code may impose of property owners in general. Variances are intended to address extraordinary, exceptional, or unique situations that are not caused by the applicant's act or omission. In order to grant a use variance, the BZA shall determine that strict compliance with the terms of this code will result in unnecessary hardship to the applicant. The applicant must demonstrate such hardship by clear and convincing evidence that all of the following criteria are satisfied. The property cannot be put into any economically viable use under any of the permitted uses in the zoning district in which the property is located. The variance requested stems from a condition which is unique to the property at issue and not ordinarily found in the same zone or district. The variance requested cannot otherwise be resolved by a zoning map amendment, or a zoning map amendment is not the most beneficial approach. The central character of the neighborhood will not be substantially altered as a result of the variance. There is an existing structure that cannot be reasonably used for a permitted use or a conditionally permitted use in the applicable zoning district. The proposed use is listed in Table 1204-3. The hardship condition is not created by actions of the applicant. The granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. The granting of the variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or general welfare. The variance will be consistent with the general spirit and intent of this code. The requested use is permitted in another district in this code. The variance sought is the minimum that will afford relief to the applicant. Any person or entity claiming to be injured or aggrieved by any final action in the Board of Zoning Appeals has the right to appeal the decision to the Court of Common Pleas as provided in Ohio Revised Code Chapters 2505 and 2506. That ends my staff report. The applicant is present. Do you have any questions for me?
No questions for Mr. Metz? Okay.
Yeah. Give us a history on this, chicken egg type history. When did this business begin at this location?
The city is only aware of the existence of this business at this location on, I think it's October 3rd, when the city was notified. Prior to that, the city was unaware that a business was operating at this location.
October 23rd in the year?
October 3rd of 2023.
October 3rd, 2023.
I believe that is the correct date. It's the beginning of October when Public Works Department was notified.
Okay.
And that was through Ohio EMA and Ohio EPA, or Butler County EMA and Ohio EPA.
And they'd taken all the required steps by law? Is it an incorporated, is it a privately owned company? What's its status? Is it a DBA? Is it
I believe it's an LLC,
LLC? The one I didn't ask.
but I would like to defer to the applicant to answer
Okay,
that.
will do. Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I would like to open the public hearing now. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the use variance, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Mr. Cash would swear you in.
Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Identify yourself, if you would, please.
I am Zach Ball with TZ Containers. I am actually, I would like to request a continuance for the June 5th meeting. My legal representative was at Mayor's Court tonight and could not come with us. And I would like to request the continuance for June 5th at 5:30 p.m.
If I may ask before we move to that request, just a few questions for context. So if we look at the record, I think that it's fairly clear that there are a number of issues on the site.
Mm-hmm.
Why would this site continue to be a feasible location for your request?
The location is adequate for us off of Interstate 75. The space is it is large enough to allow us to operate. The rent is very, very good for us. Yeah, we really like the location, and we would not like to move.
And Mr. Ball, when we look at your request, what you're asking for, if we look at the hardship that we're intended to review,
Yes.
particularly the standard of unnecessary hardship, it's a pretty high bar for you to meet, considering that you'd have to meet, for use criteria, a lengthy number of criteria for us to even entertain your request. And my point is, in terms of it being a reasonable request,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that we look at is you're asking to move this to a light industrial use. What about, have you looked elsewhere within the city to, I mean, certainly cost is one of the factors economically for you, but that's
Yes.
not necessarily a determining factor for us.
Yes.
As we review criteria.
Yes.
So that's why I want to push for a moment on this notion of whether or not this would be a feasible site.
Yes. Definitely 100% a feasible site for us. We can operate our business on this location with no problems.
But one of the issues that you're going to have to look at here is if you look at I as a review criteria, Mr. Metz, if you would pull that up. So if we're looking at granting a variance, that when we're looking at this notion here of public health and safety, those sorts of things,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the record is well documented with a number of problems here.
Yeah,
That would be one of the many that you would have to meet for the request.
certainly.
And I think that's a pretty high bar for you to meet at this particular location. That's why I'm saying I question whether or not this is a feasible or even a reasonable request for what you're doing.
Yes, so as of September 29th, I have Mitch. He is our environmental guru, and we have hired him on, and he has helped us tremendously on our processes and really knows the business and can certainly help with that.
Oh, I was just going to suggest, since the applicant has requested a continuance, that you might want to turn the board's attention to ruling on that, so that if you are going to continue the public hearing, all of this can be discussed at the June 5th meeting.
If I could ask Mr. Metz a question, I know it might, based on the request for the continuance. Is this business continuing to operate at this point in time?
I believe they are.
And continuance being granted, does that allow them to continue operating the business until this board either grants or denies the variance? Okay, thank you.
I have one final question.
Yes, sir.
You brought on an environmental person, which I think is really smart,
Yes.
the business you're in. You're asking for a continuance. Do you pledge to us that while you continue to operate, that you will be within the regulations covered your license and all of the EPA regulations that you are required to meet?
Yes, absolutely. The EPA was just in
That's a
yesterday.
this is an important statement because you better do it if you
Yes.
say you're going to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the EPA was just in yesterday, and everything was good on his end. So, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was the EPA just addressing the wastewater situation?
Yes, they are looking at all aspects. So they have dropped in numerous times throughout the year to meet with me, and they come unannounced. So they have been happy with the results so far.
Did legal counsel want to make a comment at this point?
I was just again going to suggest that since the applicant's requested a continuance, we move to that.
I would move that we, pursuant to Mr. Ball's request for a continuance, that this hearing be continued into
I'll second that.
June meeting.
We have a motion, and we have a second, I believe.
We did. Chris?
Okay. All right. Mr. Metz?
Gary Gross,
Yes?
Jim Hall,
Yes.
Todd Moore,
Yes.
Chris Rambergy,
Yes.
Jerry Heidenreich,
Yes.
David Cash,
Yes.
Stefan Wanamaker,
Yes.
So you have a continuance, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Okay, that moves us now to our next case. This is variance request number 624. A request by applicant Fernando Mendoza Ortiz for approval of an area and dimensional variance for the property located at 1926 Circle Kelly Joe Street. Mr. Metz?
Real quick, I would like to mention that the application for 2651 South Real Boulevard has been granted a motion to continue to the June 5th meeting at 5:30 p.m. in the City Council chambers at 1 Dunham Plaza. All right, so tonight before us, we have variance case number 6-24, request by applicant Fernando Mendoza Ortiz for an approval of an area and dimensional variance for the property located at 1926 Circle Kelly Joe. The variance request is to construct a home addition that projects into the rear yard setback. As you see here in this photo, here's the home. It is a duplex, and the property is on this left-hand side. The property is zoned R4 attached residential district. The purpose of the R4 attached residential district is to provide for moderate to high density residential development generally located in the core area of the city, and that reflects the historic urban pattern in and around downtown Middletown. Site development standards for an R4, this whole entire development was one large plat. At the point in time, it had different setbacks. I just wanted to include what the setbacks are currently for the R4 district. Rear yard would be 30 feet. This backyard does not have 30 feet, and side yard would be 6. This was Section A of Fireside Village subdivision, which included both circles, Circle Kelly and I believe Circle Jenny.
Could you back that up, please? This is
That's for the other, yeah.
last meeting.
So on the right-hand side of the property, it shows the duplex. The unit is on the right-hand side, indicating where the new home addition would be built. Looks like it's about 2.3 feet off the property line, possibly. The left-hand side is the site plan that the applicant has submitted for building approval. This is the application they actually submitted to the building department. For the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests, meeting notice letters for the proposed variances were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way, and all comments were forwarded to the Board of Zoning Appeals. This is an area and dimensional variance. So the following factors shall be considered and weighed by the BZA to determine practical difficulty. Whether special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land or structure involved and which are not applicable generally to the other lands or structures in the same zoning district. Examples of such special conditions or circumstances are exceptional irregularity, narrowness, shallowness, or steepness of the lot, or adjacency to nonconforming or inharmonious uses, structures, or conditions. Whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Whether the special conditions and circumstances are a direct result from the actions of the applicant, his or her agents, or prior property owners. Whether the variance is substantial and is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of land or structures. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services such as water, sewer, electric, refuse pickup, or other vital services. Whether special conditions or circumstances exist as a result of actions of the owner. Whether the property owner's predicament can feasibly be obviated through some other method other than a variance. Whether the spirit and intent behind the code requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting a variance. Whether the granting of the variance requested will confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this regulation to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same zoning district. No single factor listed above may control, and not all factors may be applicable in each case. Each case shall be determined on its own facts. Any person or entity claiming to be injured or aggrieved by any final action of the Board of Zoning Appeals has the right to appeal the decision to the Court of Common Pleas as provided in Ohio Revised Code Chapters 2505 and 2506. That ends my staff report, and the applicant is present.
Any questions for Mr. Mess before we open the public hearing?
Are there any covenants on this area?
I included the original plot plan. I found this at Butler County Recorder's Office.
I can't read that.
Yeah, I added it to the staff packet, and even then, if you look at it through the staff packet, it is hard to read.
Truthfully, James, I brought it up on my PC. I found it one time, and I could never find it again. It was blown up so big.
Well,
But,
it appears that
are there, just tell me, are there some that,
none that I am aware of. It appears that each building was built with the intention of not expanding. these were built to be like smaller, like condos that were not supposed to expand beyond the size of their footprint. As you can see in your staff packet, the building's already been built partially. It was notified to our building department that this building was being built, and then a stop work order was also included. There are some, they might have to go through for an architecture review board waiver for the roof pitch. It's only 3/12. But as far as we know, we don't have any record of any covenants. Just that the intent was these homes were.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if it's useful, those restrictive covenants, if they did exist, would only be a private contract between the property owner and their HOA. So whatever you do tonight within the confines of the zoning code, if there are restrictive covenants on the property owner would still need to deal with whoever the homeowners association was in that, in the area.
Okay, thank you.
They do have an HOA. That is who paves their streets and maintains any public space at that in the circles.
This is a public hearing. Oh, do you have a question?
James, I see that there is a concrete pad that was poured at one point in time. It appears at one point I'm looking at it.
That's in the staff packet.
It's in the staff packet?
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. Does the city require a permit before a pad is poured?
Yes. So if it was poured as a patio, it would be considered an accessory structure. Come through certificate of zoning compliance application for that. If it was built after the development of the home, and then if it was built as a base or a foundation for a home addition, then it would absolutely have to come through for zoning compliance and through the building department to be inspected prior to the concrete being poured.
As well, assuming that this obviously this extension was partially completed, as you just mentioned before, a stop order was issued. And if electric was intended here at HVAC, various permits required and plans be submitted to the engineering department before those permits could be issued? Yes,
we'd have to have a stamped set of architectural plans and then permits or applications submitted for HVAC, electric, plumbing, and anything else that would be applicable. And we've not received that.
Are you aware of whether this is to be a 3-season, 4-season room? Did the applicant indicate that you, we'll talk to the applicant as well, but I didn't know whether you were aware if it had been disclosed that it was to be a 3 or 4-season, or just a covered patio. It looks like there's walls intended here to be enclosed.
I've not been informed. Just from the pictures itself, it looks like it's going to be enclosed.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed variance, please come forward. Mr. Cash would swear you in. Hi there.
You raise your right hand, sir. Do you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Identify yourself, please.
I did.
Your name, please.
Fernando Mendoza.
Thank you, sir. So in the application itself, you've listed this as I believe as a covered porch.
Yeah.
However, what we're reviewing seems to lean more towards a home addition. So would you like to clarify any of that for us? Is it a covered porch? Is it a home addition? What is your intention?
No, I can do it only at the porch for put the posts in the floor from send the email for I need the permit, and I can do it for cover the walls. For only cover the walls, no plumbers, no electric, no nothing. Only the cover all around the porch. Make it cover porch. Not put the driveway, not put nothing. Only the wall.
Mr. Moore, I see that we may have a real language barrier here for Mr., what's your last name, sir?
Fernando
Last name?
Mendoza.
Mendoza. Are you married, sir?
Yeah.
Does your wife speak English?
No.
Okay.
This is the problem.
No, that's,
I can do a little bit, but it's.
and I don't speak Spanish. So we both have this kind of.
Muy pequeño, muy.
Muy pequeño. Yeah, this is my first my house. This is my first time right here. Sorry for my English is bad.
So if I could ask, it'll have a roof and walls, and what are the walls? Do they have windows in them or screens?
Yeah, 3 windows
So
for
it'll
the backside.
Weather tight, so no rain and stuff gets in?
Yeah, I can do it for my kids. I got my kids, and not having a porch, no cover, no nothing, and for the play in the inside.
So will it be heated?
No, not here.
Oh, so it's just gonna be enclosed?
Yeah, that close.
No heat, no air,
No, nothing.
just windows?
Yeah, except to the windows.
Okay.
I'll leave open the windows.
Electric?
No electric. I got the electric. The electric is in the building. No, it's in the house right now. I got 3 lights. The house for the back. No, I need electric.
So they're porch lights or rear lights?
Yeah.
That you have existing?
Right.
See.
Mr. Mintz, are you able to pull up some of the pictures that show the roof extending into the back lot?
Yeah, I would have to go into the staff packet real quick.
The reason I asked that question, I went and drove to see the property and how close it comes to the property line. It's actually a large structure in the back. Again, as we make decisions, I always want to point clearly to our review criteria. When we're looking at whether or not there would be an impact to the neighborhood itself, I'm looking at the property owner that sits behind your structure, and I have concerns about how close you are to the line and the size in which you're proposing. You're saying that this is just a porch, a 3-season room of some sort. I just wonder the size and scope of what you're proposing, whether that would be fitting for this particular neighborhood, particularly the property owners that sit directly behind your home.
How much is the typical?
Well, it's tricky on this question because it's
The problem right now, the concrete, the concrete is doesn't mean to put the concrete. The concrete is the barriers for the house. That mean to put the concrete. Only that mean put the walls.
Pardon me. Are you saying the concrete was there when you bought the house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, make it the last owner that put the concrete, or I don't know which put the concrete in the, only that me put the walls and the roof, flush for the concrete.
So you're unsure if there's the proper footers underneath the concrete to carry the load of the structure?
So the concrete is the 5 inches. I don't know, make it any footers, I know, it's.
Yeah, that picture right there, James.
Yep.
Yeah.
What, that looks like concrete on the other side, and this looks like gravel where the patio door.
No. This is not gravel. It's concrete too.
It's just got a step.
Yeah, it's a step.
Okay.
Yeah, it's concrete too. Oh, it's concrete.
2 levels.
Yeah, 2 levels. Right there. I see it right there.
So you're saying, Mr. Mendoza, that concrete was, when did you buy this?
I got a year and a half.
And this concrete pad was already there when you?
Yeah, it's that ready.
I'd like to make one clarifying point. I said on the site plan it shows it's about 3 feet from the property line, but then this image right here also shows 28 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's 28 inches.
To the fence or to the actual property line?
the image shows 28 inches.
That must be to the fence. Yeah.
Looks like the fence. And I'm sorry, Mr. Metz, you might have addressed this before. What is the minimum in this zoning district?
Well, this plat was done, I believe, back in the 1980s. So it came through most likely with some deviations from what the standard code was back then. What it currently is now is 6 feet.
6 feet, okay.
Typically, when we have somebody do a home addition now, we require a survey and we require permits, everything going from the footer all the way up until the home is complete.
Does the board have any other questions for Mr. Ortiz? Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yes,
You
sir.
can have a seat if you wish. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed variance? If so, please come forward. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Is there anyone wishing to speak against the proposed variance? Please come forward. Please come forward, ma'am.
Raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Speak up, ma'am. and
Yes.
Identify yourself if you would.
I'm Lisa Snelling. My mother lives next to them. She lives at 1928 Circle Kelly Joe. I did not call to complain about any of this, but my question is, are there laws that you have to abide by before you start building? See, now, they put the driveway in last year, and I didn't notice a permit when they did that. So it's like if you keep pushing and pushing and you drift away from what is law, then we drift into chaos. That's why I'm here. So I don't wish any harm, but there has to be laws. So inform me, educate me.
I think legal counsel would have to do that for the city because we're not, well.
Because if we just start doing whatever we want, you know, and then in hindsight say, well, we didn't know, this is chaos. So I'm just here to observe and listen. My mom has lived there 29 years, and I don't recall that patio actually being as big as his statement, because my mom's patio is tiny. And my mom's home was built in 1975. So, and the wood does not look to be like a covered porch. It's not treated lumber from what I can tell. If it's a covered porch, wouldn't you do treated lumber, exposed to the elements? That's all I have to say.
Yeah, we're the Board of Zoning Appeals. The questions you're raising would have to go to the building department.
Excuse me?
This is the Board of Zoning Appeals. The questions you're asking would have to go to the building official or the council.
Okay, well, I tried to call the number, the letter that my mom received, I called that phone number 2 or 3 times, but it went straight to his voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I don't even know who that is. I was just curious, so.
That was me. I was out on medical leave for a few weeks
Okay.
after sending this letter. I think a lot of her questions are rhetorical. They're asking, this is the, I mean, am I right? A lot of your questions you're asking are rhetorical in nature, not necessarily looking for an answer. Like, she's posing these questions for you to consider.
And somebody said something about an HOA. came into contact with the lady that owns the property right across the street from them just by luck. And she said she was bringing it to the city that she wants an HOA put in place. She wants an HOA so that the roads can be maintained or it become part of the city of Middletown. Because nobody maintains those roads as is.
So if I may weigh in, for the purposes of tonight, we're in a pretty limited review process. There are laws on point, local laws. What they're reviewing tonight is the setback required for a building like this, right?
Exactly.
And they're asking to vary it, which is allowed under the code. You can come in and request a variance like this to have a smaller setback than required by code.
Do you generally do that after the fact?
It happens sometimes. You do end up in these situations where people, through whatever reason, are asking for that variance after the construction has already started. It's not unheard of that you see that circumstance.
Is that the correct way?
Well, ideally, we would be having the conversation before the construction has started, but, you know, for the purposes of tonight, the board's going to address it in the context of what they've got in front of them. And all they'll be looking at tonight has nothing to do with building code, nothing to do with materials or permits for a driveway or anything along those lines. It'll strictly be that setback from the side, from the property line. Right? That's the only variance they're requesting, is the setback variance.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Anyone else wishing to speak against the variance, please come forward. Seeing no one else, I will now close the public hearing. We'll move to deliberations.
I'll start off here, if you don't mind. And I may have a different opinion than other members of the board here. I personally lived in this plat on the other end of the horseshoe for years. I have family that lives in that plat, and I've sold several in that plat. As far as I'm aware, the HOA has been non-existent for decades. There's never been any fees, there's never been any rules imposed. In my opinion, it's probably one of the worst design plats that has been allowed to be built, considering the narrowness of the streets and everything else, but that's besides the point. My opinion is that the design of this plat kind of limits the ability of owners to be able to create additions onto their property, whether they're porches or room additions or whatever. That being said, I would say that I think an addition would be allowed. Now, whether 28 inches is appropriate, that's something that we have to get in the weeds about. But that's just my opinion right there.
I did have a question about the setback. When that was built, do we know what the setback was at that time?
Unfortunately, I was not able to find what the previous setback was. Just, I was able to find the plat that was submitted and recorded at Butler County's Recorder's Office, but no additional information. There was a letter of intent from the developer for Fireside, but it didn't feel substantial enough or quality enough for me to add in the staff packet. Oftentimes you have a developer come in, submit something, and then they change it several times throughout the process. So the only thing that we have that is substantial is the plat that looks like it's for duplexes.
Do we know what the city ordinance was at that time for setback?
Unfortunately, I do not.
If we were to grant the variance, is this an effort of futility? Are there other hoops that have to be jumped through in order for this addition to continue in construction?
I cannot speak on the building department side of it, but the roof pitch, architectural standards, those are all things that need to be reviewed. Currently, the roof is a 3/12 pitch. It's not permitted. It needs to be 6/12, so the roof would have to be redone. There would be other barriers that would have to be completed.
So this would just be a first step toward several steps that would allow continuation of this construction.
Well, I don't know if I would phrase it like that. This is ultimately giving authority to build this, to build it this close.
The roof's a biggie.
But the stop order, if we grant the variance, the stop order then expires and Mr. Would be able to continue construction.
He'd be able to continue construction right away. He would just have to resubmit plans, a little bit more in detail than the photo on the left, including a set of architectural plans.
Concerning if we turn this down, if he moves that wall that he's built there to a 6-foot position, would that be permitted under what we're discussing here then? So,
Yeah, if he would like to, if he tore down the wall and then pushed it to what our current standards are now, for the side yard, it would have to be 6 feet, and for the rear yard, it'd have to be 30 feet.
30.
So he doesn't have a 30-foot backyard.
Thank you.
Yep. If he did, then it would be applicable and it would be fine. I would just like to ask, when you do make a decision, that you do cite the review criteria.
I wanted to say I can appreciate Mr. Wanamaker's comment about this being an awkwardly designed neighborhood. It certainly is. As I looked at the neighborhood, it has a number of issues for anyone who would even propose a development there. It does have a challenge. I think my fundamental concern, and I can appreciate that someone would want to build onto their home, again, the challenge that I have is just whether or not what you're proposing is actually feasible, whether it's a reasonable request. I'll go back to that again. I'm looking at the character of the neighborhood. I'm not necessarily looking specifically at the property, his property alone, but I'm also looking at how that impacts the property owners on the other side of the fence. And if we look at the number of properties that is in Circle Joe, if we open this request and approval for this request, there's already folks that have put some things in behind their home. Again, the outcome in allowing this could be that we've got folks that, again, are going to be close to the property line for homes on the other side of the fence that those homeowners we need to protect as well for their property value. And that's one of my fundamental concerns here. Secondly, citing the criteria, I don't think this is within the spirit and intent of the code. However well-intentioned it may be. Coming that close to a property line, again, without any interaction with the city when we started the project, I would not be in favor of granting the variance. And then to Mr. Heidenreich's point, if there was some way to accommodate a smaller structure on the back, a patio or something like that, that's a very different request. But as I look at this in totality, it seems to me that what's being proposed here, it certainly leans towards a home addition. And that would not be within the code. And I just don't think getting that close to the setback, particularly as it affects the property owners on the other side of the fence, I would not be in favor of the proposed variance.
I agree too, because it wasn't too long ago, we had a case like this on Gideon or Burton, and I spoke about encroachment on your neighbors, and this is very too close for comfort. Along the lines, it's an 18 by 28 structure. I mean, there's plenty of room to scale it back to have a 6-foot setback from the back property line.
And adjust the roof at the same time.
So I would not be in favor of it either.
If I might clarify real quick, no matter what depth of porch or addition he makes, it's going to require a variance because right now 30 feet is what is required. So even if he wants to do a 3-foot addition, technically he's going into the 30-foot setback.
Yeah, that's right.
So whether it's 28 inches from the back or 10 feet from the back, is that something that we can address here, or are we just looking at the 28-inch variance right now?
Well, you can approve with a modification, approve that the structure be moved back to however the distances that you would prefer, but the applicant would have to agree to that, and then you'd have to make a vote.
The only thing I'm concerned about there, I certainly want to accommodate folks who want to do additions or a patio, whatever it may be, but considering, it would be nice to see what the future would look like if he was to at least bring plans, work with the city to do that, rather than us trying to take an arbitrary approach and say what we think is fitting, have it go through the process, let the applicant go through that process, and let us come back and then try to entertain that to the very best of our ability.
Would like to say whether it is a 3-season room or it is a home addition with electric, water, and HVAC. When an accessory structure is attached to a primary residential dwelling, it must meet the side and rear yard setbacks. So whether it's a 3-season room or whether it's a home addition, it must meet the setbacks.
So, do we have anyone who'd like to make a motion?
Well, before we do, I think everybody would like to attempt to accommodate this family. And make a long story short, if we deny this, which I think is what's going to happen, can you work with this gentleman and see that he gets pointed in the right direction on a true plan that the city would accept, or that he would then have the opportunity to return to us with that more detailed plan?
The building department would be able to work with the applicant regarding architectural plans that would be required, and I could work with the applicant on providing a more detailed site plan.
I think that's appropriate, Chairman.
And at the same time, could fix the roof pitch and whatever else is a problem.
Do we have a motion to deny?
Well, yeah, straight up, I move that we deny tonight's request.
Is there a second?
Well, I think, as Mr. Metz indicated, there needs to be a citation to the specific review criteria, or, well, criteria is singular and plural, so review criteria. Since Mr. Amber, you made the motion, I think he identifies.
You want me to come up with it?
Yeah.
You're the council.
You made the motion.
Well, I spoke earlier about the essential character.
Which one?
5 and 9, if you want to review that, 5 and 9.
I think number 10. And a special privilege.
If those are the specific review criteria being adopted by Mr. Amber, I would second the motion.
10.
Is it just review criteria 10 or 5, 9, and 10?
What was the other one?
5, 9, and 10.
The first one was whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance.
I don't know that I buy that one. 10.
Mr. Cash is number 2. Stefan Wanamaker.
Yes.
David Cash. Yes. Jerry Heidenreich.
Yes to deny.
Chris Rambergy.
Yes to deny.
Todd Moore.
Yes to deny.
Jim Hall.
Yes to deny.
Gary Gross.
Yes to deny.
New and old business?
Any new or old business? Yes, sir. If you want, if you're, well, the public hearing is closed. Any comments that you would make now, we would put into the record, but the public hearing for your particular case is now closed. Yeah. And since we granted that continuance, I think that'd be our best course at this point, follow that process. Since there's no new or old business, all those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.
Okay.